Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Wednesday, the 26th of July 2017. I'm so glad that you're joining me today. If you're watching for the very first time, I really hope that you'll enjoy this podcast and maybe you will become a regular viewer and subscriber. And if you're coming back, thank you ever so much. I know it's been a while. I talked about this in the last podcast. I was on holidays and then life happened and now I'm back. So the reason why I have wet hair but I'm also dressed fancy is that I literally just came home from work. It is ridiculously rainy. It's been raining for 24 hours, although we are lucky here because in other regions of Germany it is much worse than here in terms of flooding. But it's freezing cold and wet and I've just come back from work, but I decided to at least start recording a podcast. Not sure if I'll finish it today, but maybe so. Maybe I'll finish it another day and then just edit it into one episode. So, welcome back, and first of all, to all of you who sent me lovely messages and comments after the last podcast episode, thank you so much. It really meant a lot. I wasn't able to reply to all of them, but I was so touched, and yeah, thank you so much, you guys. Also, quite a few people have suggested that I get a moderator for the Ravelry group, which was a genius idea, and I'm not sure why I hadn't thought of that. So now my lovely, lovely friend Grace is actually moderating our Ravelry group. Thank you so much, Grace, for that. It makes life so much easier, and I'm just super happy to know that someone is watching over the group when I am not. And yeah, so that was a great suggestion. The group is on Ravelry. It's called the Happy Knitting Podcast Group. So I would love for you to join, and you can join into the knit-alongs, and well, there's all sorts of stuff going on in there. Coupon codes. You can introduce yourself. It's always just a fun place to hang out, and lots of knitterly things are going on. In terms of show notes, they will also be in the Ravelry group. How many times can I say Ravelry group in one sentence? So you can find show notes and information and everything there. And I asked you guys about show notes, and some of you said you do really like them. Some of them you said you don't care. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep them very simple on Ravelry, but I might not always do them the second I record, but maybe it'll just be a little bit later and we'll just see how it goes. So that's it for the administration introductions part, I guess. Very quickly, just to mention, we have the Celebrate Your Stash Knit-along, which ends on August 1st. Actually, no, it ends on July 31st, and I will draw the prizes on August 1st. So make sure you get your entries in. Essentially, it is just a knit-along to knit something from your stash. So something that has either been in there for too long, some really old stash, or some fancy stash that you haven't been wanting to use. Just celebrate your stash and knit something fun, and I will draw some prizes from the chatter thread. We have two prizes at the moment. One is a lovely bag from Wild Woolly, and together with a skin balm that she makes herself, and the other prize will be coming from me or from a lovely viewer as well who donated a skein of yarn and some stitch markers from Knitting in France. So I showed the prizes last week. So let's just jump right into the episode because there's so much stuff to cover and I'm not sure if I'm going to cover all of it, but we'll just try. So first of all, I have a couple of finished objects. The first pair of socks I'm going to show you, I feel like I finished them ages ago. I think I finished them like 2 or 3 weeks ago. These are I'm calling them Excuse Me socks, but they have nothing to do with the Excuse Me shawl besides the fact that I'm just using the leftovers from my shawl, which I was actually wearing today. So that's fun. So the yarn that I used is this lovely Wollnwein MCN yarn in the Pandora colorway, and heel and cuff are in Das Mondschap in the Rapture colorway. And I knit some Times Square socks out of this yarn from Mina of the Knitting Expat. And I knit them toe up because I didn't know how much yarn I was going to have, so I finished these. Super happy with them, can't wait to wear them. I like that they're short but not super short because the super short socks don't tend to stay on my feet very well, but these ones I think will be really fun. And once it's actually a little bit warmer again because now it's 12 degrees, which is freezing, but I think that'll be a good sort of summer to autumn sock. So yeah, these are my first pair of socks. My second pair of socks are these ones. I think I showed them to you as a work in progress. This yarn is from Somerset Yarns in the UK, The colorway was called Midnight Rave, and I just knit some vanilla socks because I saw the dyer knit up a pair out of the same colorway, and they did this really fun micro striping for her as well, and I just thought that was really awesome. So it's just a vanilla sock with a fish lips kiss heel. Nothing super fancy, but I'm really enjoying this. This is in her BFL nylon base, which I hadn't tried before, and it took me a while to get used to it, but I think it's going to be a really good and sturdy base, and I think I'm going to be wearing them for a long time. So I'm very happy to have these done. I actually almost finished them before I went on holidays, so when we returned I just had to knit half of a toe and then I was done. So very happy with these, and thanks to the weather I can be wearing hand knit socks, so I will maybe wear these to work tomorrow. So that's my second finished object. And all of my socks are generally being knit on US size 2.25 millimeter 2.25 millimeter US size 1 needles. And because I've been getting quite a few questions in terms of what heel am I using, some people have been asking me on Ravelry, on my project pages, I will try to link it or to note it down more in my project pages. But I always either do the fish lips kiss heel or the afterthought heel, following Kirby Werby's tutorial on YouTube. My last finished object is another pair of socks, because apparently that's all I finish these days. This is another vanilla pair. I knit these on my 9-inch circular sock needles. This is using Shibot Garn in their soft sock, and the colorway is Never Say Never. And these are just super fun and cheerful. Yeah, so these are I knit on the 9-inch circular and then put in an afterthought heel, so that's what it looks like. And I really like how these kind of striped up. I think I didn't show these on the podcast because I think I finished them in between podcasts, so I'm not quite sure. But the pooling of these is really, really awesome. It's very colorful, as you can see, but I think it's striped up really nicely. It's kind of like a micro striping within bigger stripes. So again, super happy to have these done. About the 9-inch circulars, I'm not quite sure, but I'm thinking they are the ones that caused this. I currently have quite a bad case of tendinitis, which I've struggled with in the past, so I'm not really surprised, but it started on the holidays and it's just getting worse, so I'm actually not knitting very much at the moment. And I always knit a lot, so I'm thinking maybe because I was really trying to get these done and I was knitting on my tiny little needles, I'm thinking maybe that just led me to cramp up, and so I'm not sure if I'm going to be using them in the very near future, but we'll see. So yeah, this is my last finished object. But I'm actually surprised at how beautiful they look on the screen. I mean, they look beautiful in person as well, but yeah, I'm really, really happy with these. So that's it for my finished objects. Let's talk about some works in progress, which should be quite fun because most of them are new works in progress. But I'll show the old one first. This is my Never Ending shawl. This is the Kalara shawl by Amber O'Brien, which is a really, really pretty pattern, but for me it's turning into a bit of a product knit. I really would like to have the finished product, but I'm not hating the knit, but I'm finding it a little boring and tedious because I'm changing colors every row. And some people really like stripes because they think it's fun. For me, it's just a bit, I feel like my yarns always get tangled and it's just slowing me down. But let's just show it to you instead of talking about it. I'm just trying to get my yarn untangled. But it's a shawl that is knit on the bias, I guess. So let me show it to you the right way around. It's a striped shawl, and it has this really fun sort of chevron pattern, which is really beautiful. Like I said, I think it's turning out really well. The yarns that I'm using this is my leftover from the first ball. This is Drops Alpaca Silk, which is a really old stash yarn, so that goes perfectly into our CYS Cal. And this is Hedgehog Fibers in the Fool's Gold colorway. So I think the combination of both of these is really sort of toning down the crazy hedgehog. And I'm really liking how this is turning out. And also the combination of the merino and the baby alpaca and silk just makes it very, very drapey. But it's just a lot of girdle stitch and a few increases and decreases. I've reached the widest point now, which apparently uses, that's when you should have used 1/3 of your yarn. So I still have quite a bit to go, but this is going to be incredibly hard to show you guys. just believe me when I say, like, now I'm decreasing again, so it should be faster at some point. And I can't wait to have this done. I think this is going to be a fantastic staple piece, possibly even for the office, because it's crazy, but it's not super crazy. So we'll see about that, but that's where I am with this at the moment. My next work in progress is one that I cast on in France because Kai decided he desperately needs more socks, and I didn't bring any sock yarn for him, so we had to go buy some. Poor me, right? I had to go buy yarn. Such a chore. I'm just kidding, of course. The yarn that he picked, let me see how I do this. I'm knitting them 2 at a time. But this is the yarn that we picked up from a yarn store in Nice called Au Belle Laine. And this is Lang Yavol yarn. I've knit with their yarn before, but this is the first time I'm knitting with their sort of mild range. And it's really interesting. It's just in 2 sort of natural colored and 1 black strand plied together, which I think is really, really pretty. And the socks that I'm knitting up are just plain vanilla, which is what Kai likes best. And they're really interesting as well because the yarn is looking very rustic and it's got a bit of a halo and it's not super smooth, but at the same time it's actually quite a soft yarn. So I'm really liking the effect that I'm getting with this. It's very unusual for me, but Kai really said he would like to have some business socks and these would be perfect for that. So I am actually quite happy with these. I knit them 2 at a time to the heel, and now I'm stuck at the point where I put in 1 heel and I use the nylon extra thread that you get with this yarn to reinforce the heel because this yarn doesn't feel super sturdy. And then my hand played up, and I think it had to do with that as well because I find knitting the heel with 2 strands to be quite painful on my wrists anyways. So now I'm stuck with 1 sock with a heel and 1 sock that still needs the heel, and these have gone into a bit of a timeout, but I will pick them back up and finish them as soon as I feel a little better because I think Kai will really love these socks. I'm doing 68 stitches on a US size 1 2.25mm needle for these. And the colorway, if you're interested, I think is 2104, but I'm not quite sure because this yarn is from Italy, I believe. But yeah, I think it is. So I'm back. I just had to get a quick drink and I was overheating. So my next 2 projects are in 1 project bag, which happens a lot when I travel. This is a bag from Mina of Knitting Expat when she was still making bags, and it's actually a sock project bag, but it fits 2 socks actually quite well. So I have 2 projects in here which you haven't seen before. The first one is this I cast on in the holidays as well. This is a yarn that I've been wanting to cast on for a while, but can't find the tag right now. This is also from Das Mondschaf, who is the German indie dyer that I've mentioned quite a few times, and this is one of her signature colorways, I would say. It's called Einhorn Poops, which means unicorn fart. So it's super fun and speckly but very light, and this is in her sock base. I've used that 2 times now to knit a shawl, one of them being my own design, the Squishalicious shawl, but I've never actually used it for socks, so I was quite curious about it because it's a very soft, beautiful base, but I'm not quite sure how well it's going to hold up for socks. But I was really interested because, like I said, it's super soft and really beautiful. So the socks that I cast on, I'm doing a vanilla on the back. So it's just plain stockinette on the back, which already looks so stunning with this yarn. I think it's such a beautiful colorway. And on the front of the sock, I wanted to do some patterning, so the pattern that I chose is a free pattern on Ravelry. I forgot the designer's name, but the pattern is called Bubbles Down the Drain, which I think is a weird, slightly funny name for a sock pattern, but it's this super cute lace pattern. I wanted something that wasn't just lace, and I also wanted something that was easy to memorize, and this is definitely it. The instructions give you a lot of things, a lot of information about casting on with a crochet hook and all sorts of stuff, which I just didn't really read. I just wanted to know how the stitch pattern works. It is super simple. It is a 4-row repeat, and I think the effect that it gives is just really fun. It's exactly what I wanted, and I absolutely love it. So I've knit the front and I've knit the leg of the sock. I've put in a Fishnets Kiss heel, and now I'm maybe 3/4 and done with the foot. So I'm really happy with these. Like I said, I'm curious to see how they will hold up because they feel super soft and special. And yeah, I'm curious to see if they will wear through very quickly. But they do have, I think, 70 and 25% nylon content, so they shouldn't. So we'll see. And if this holds up really well, I might order quite a lot more of it because this is a really pleasant yarn to work with as well. And you all know how much I like to support German indie dyers. These will be for me, so I cast on 64 stitches. I think the sock pattern is written for 60 stitches, but it's very, very easy to adjust. And I like my patterns to be centered in the middle anyways, which it wasn't, so it worked out really well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having these done because, again, I think they'll be quite useful for warmer weather as well. With the lace, I think they'll be really beautiful, and these will definitely be socks that I can wear to work because I tried not to wear super crazy socks to work just in case someone can see them, but these look quite toned down, so I think they'll be fine. So I'm very much enjoying these. And the other pair of socks that I cast on before we left. And this is yarn from Nicole C. Mendes, who I've talked about quite a few times as well. She's a German indie dyer who does a lot of self-striping yarns in a beautiful yarn club. So this was the June colorway, I believe. It's called Cupcake, and I just really wanted to see how it knits up. So I decided to knit some Hermione's Everyday socks, which I'm sure a lot of you have already knit. It's a very, very popular free pattern on Ravelry. And this is what it looks like. It's really beautiful, isn't it? So I've knit the pattern on both the front and the back for the leg. And this stitch marker is where I'm going to put a afterthought heel. And then, of course, I knit the bottom of the foot in stockinette, which also looks really, really pretty. I like how the stripes are slightly tonal. In the beginning, I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it, but I actually really like the look of it, and it's a beautiful colorway. The stripes are not entirely even. I feel like some of them are maybe a row wider than the other ones, but I absolutely don't care. I love these colors, and considering this was a club colorway, you never know what you're going to get, but these are so my colors, and I think the sock pattern actually works with it really well as well. It's really sort of like just a fun textured pattern, but it doesn't really take away from the stripes, and the stripes also don't take away anything from the pattern. So this sock, as you can see, I just need to Kitchener it, and then I need to cast on the second one. And these will most likely be for me as well. I don't really decide with afterthought heel socks because, of course, I can just put in the heel at a different point, and then they could be for someone with smaller or larger feet. But they will most likely be for me. And honestly, I started knitting up this colorway and I loved it so much that I had to renew my subscription, and I got the new subscription for, I think, September, October, and November as well. So I kind of splurged, but I'm super happy about it. Love this yarn. This is on her 80/20 merino nylon base, and I really love this base as well. And it feels fun to have this long sock tube, but it's going to look more like a sock once I put the heel in. So yeah, those are my current works in progress, besides my blankets, which I decided to not show you today, just to keep this at a somehow normal length, and because I actually need to get some stuff done today as well. So safe to say, I showed you my Cozy Memories blanket on the last episode with the squares, and the first thing I did after I recorded that episode is I tried to finish that square that I was working on. Made a huge mistake, tried to rip back, then decided that it was too annoying to rip back on a tiny square, and then I just ripped the entire square out and didn't want to re-knit it. So I've been kind of knitting backwards on that, but oh well. Before we talk about acquisitions, let's talk about spinning. I've been spinning for a while now. Actually, I started again right before, what's it called? Tour de Fleece started, and my entire Tour de Fleece spinning is one skein of yarn, which is kind of sad, but then again, I didn't really participate anyways, because for me, I don't really want to turn my crafting into a competition. I know that lots of people enjoy it, but I don't really, and also I'm working full-time, and I also have been away for a week, so for me that just gets really frustrating. So anyways, I spun one skein of yarn, and my boyfriend is coming home. I hope I remember to cut this out. Otherwise, you will hear me screaming at my boyfriend. Anyways, what was I saying? I managed to spin up one skein of yarn, but it's one skein of yarn that I'm very, very, very happy with. This fiber is a merino nylon blend from Elfenwolle, who is also a German indie dyer, and I will link her Etsy store. I believe she started a podcast now, but I haven't actually had time to check it out yet. Also, I don't remember what this colorway was called, but anyways, I decided to spin some sock yarn, which is my favorite thing to spin. And this is what it looks like. Excuse the messy skein. I'm very, very happy with it. I spun very, very thin singles and then chain plied them, so it's a 3-ply. So all the colors are staying together and it should make a very fun sort of stripy gradient kind of sock. And the yardage on this is really, really good. I usually, whenever I spin as thin as I can, I get about a fingering weight, but this is actually 480 meters. I haven't weighed it yet, but it's less than 100 grams, I believe. So it's almost a little bit too light for socks, which never has happened to me before. But I think it's going to be fine. I'm going to probably knit these toe up. I want to cast this on pretty soon as well. And yeah, I just love them. With the plying, last time I spun an Elfenwolle merino nylon braid into sock yarn, I kind of overplied it and I didn't like the structure. So this is a lot looser in terms of the plying, which makes it very soft. I am hoping it will hold up. I've been thinking about just putting it through the wheel again and putting in a little bit more twist, but I think I actually really like how soft and springy it is. So I think it should be fine. It has like 35% nylon or something, so it should be good. And I'm like I said, I'm super happy with it. I actually started spinning up another one of her braids last night, mostly again because I'm not really knitting a whole lot. And I actually did some sample spinning because now I'm thinking I need to spin a tiny bit thicker, because ideally I would like to spin a chain ply of about 400 meters rather than 480. So I did a little test skein, but then I felt like that was getting too thick. So I just plied this tiny little mini skein as I test. It's weird, it's the exact same base, just on a different colorway. But this one I found a lot harder to spin for some reason. But this is the little 3-ply mini that I have to show you. It's really beautiful. I love the colors. They're blowing out. There we go. And after seeing this, I kind of readjusted my spinning wheel, and I think now I'm on track and suddenly everything worked out really well. So I think now I'm on track with my next spin as well. So that's it for my spinning. In case you're wondering, I spin on a Woolmakers Bliss single treadle wheel, which I love to death. And like I said, I love spinning merino and nylon braids and just knitting super fun, colorful hand-knit socks, hand-spun socks. And I would like to have more hand-spun socks. And I do really like chain plies for that. I have one pair of socks in a 2-ply yarn, and they are not holding up great, and I personally just prefer the structure and the feel of a 3-ply over a 2-ply anyways. So that's it for my spinning, and I will go into my acquisitions. And all of the acquisitions that I have this week are from our trip to France. So I think I'm going to talk about my acquisitions, and it might kind of lead into my holiday ramble as well, but we'll just see how we go with that. So I looked up the place where we were staying, which was in Vence. In case you're in France and you know, or you have been to the Côte d'Azur, Vence is about 20 minutes from Nizza. There's a famous place called Saint-Paul-de-Vence, but we were staying in the actual town of Vence, which was super beautiful. I'll talk about more about that later. But I looked up in advance and found one yarn store, and it was sort of just like a backup idea for me because I was worried about running out of yarn, but I knew that they had mostly drops yarn, and when we went there, that's pretty much all they had. So they had a lot of drops yarn, which is a nice yarn to use, but not exactly what I was looking for, because I was really looking forward to trying Italian yarns or yarns that I just can't get here. But of course, she was super nice, and we were actually chatting about yarn in French, which I was really proud of. So I decided to pick up 3 balls of Drops Flora, And this is for a very specific project. I want to knit another 3-color cashmere cowl, which is a pattern by Joji Locatelli that a lot of people have knit. I've already knitted once, and my sister knitted once, but I gifted my first one to my sister as well, so I actually never got to wear mine. And my sister, she picked these really awesome colors for herself when she was knitting one out of Holzgarn. And that kind of gave me the idea of also using, I think she used like a yellow and a beige and another color, I'm not quite sure, but she gave me the idea to use similar colors, and I really like these 3 together. These 2 are very similar, and then just this one pop of yellow, which I think will be super fun in autumn and winter. And I didn't want to be using, 100 gram skeins of fancy yarn for the cowl, because you can just get by with 50 grams of this fingering weight. I've tried it before. So this will go into stash, and eventually I will knit another 3-color cashmere cowl out of this. Then I found another yarn store in the same town. We were just walking by, and it was from Bergère de France, which was super, super exciting because I've been hearing so much about Bergère de France yarn, which is a commercial French yarn, and the fact that there was a store right there was just amazing. And the first 2 days that we were there they were closed, so that kind of killed me. But then finally it opened, and I dragged poor Kai into the store, and the sock yarn was what I really wanted, and it took me a while to find, and then suddenly there was a box of the sock yarn that I wanted right in front of me on the ground, and I just squealed with joy and basically tried to get it all. So the yarn that I'm talking about is this yarn. This is Bergère de France in the Gumi 50, which is their sock yarn. It is 75-25 virgin wool and nylon. And I've seen this on quite a few podcasts, mostly on Isabel of Fluffy Fibers, and I've been wanting this yarn ever since. I've been trying to get it from Germany, but I didn't really find any way to get it. So I was super excited. So these are 50 gram balls, so I got 2 of this colorway, which is this one. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I've just heard and read so many good things about this. I also got this colorway, which is called Empreinte Rose, I believe, which is the same idea. And I got this colorway, which is super fun. So there was a 4th colorway, but I kind of thought, well, maybe 3 out of the 4 that I had is fine. But of course, as soon as we got home, I regretted that. So eventually, I actually went back and got the 4th colorway that they had. These were the only colors that they had as well, because they're just so fun. And these might be socks for Kai, or all of these might be gift socks, or I think they would be perfect. So all the colorways that I got together are these 4, and I'm super, super excited about these. This is definitely my most exciting yarn purchase from our holiday. And all of the yarn that I bought on holiday was actually very reasonably priced. So I thought that was going to be it for yarn shopping. I didn't really look for anything else, but we actually one day went to Nice, and I purposely didn't look up yarn shops in advance, but then we were sitting in a coffee shop, and I think Kai was on the toilet, and I used the 1 second that I had to just check if there are yarn stores around, and there are 2. I might have been better off going to the other one. I've heard really good things about it after we were there, but oh well. Kai agreed to go to one yarn store with me, so we went to one called Aubelaine, and it was really awesome actually. The guy, it was a man who was there, and I guess was running it. He was very, very friendly. He was actually selling to a few guys when we were there as well, so it was really fun to see some male knitters, and he was lovely. He was really nice to talk to as well. And so I got the sock yarn there for Kai's socks, which I showed you before, and then they had quite a bit of yarn on sale. I didn't really know what I was looking for at that point, so I got this yarn, which is an Italian yarn. I'm not going to try to pronounce that either, because while my French is not great, I don't speak Italian. But this is a sport weight pure wool. And they just had a couple of fun colorways. I actually wanted to get a sweaters quantity, but then at the same time, I didn't really want to overspend. This was not expensive, but still, I didn't want to, buy too much yarn because I wasn't really planning on that. So I just got 4 different colorways, and I really want to do some color work with this. Maybe sort of like a matching hat and cowl set or something. This would have been really good for a sweater. I'm not sure if I might be regretting not getting more of this, but we'll see how it goes. These are 50-gram balls, so I can make something fun with this for sure, and this will just go into stash for now. So these are all my holiday purchases. It was really funny. Like I said, I wasn't planning on buying that much yarn. I wasn't really planning on buying yarn at all, to be honest. And in the end, I had this huge bag, and on our way home, it was a bit of a long journey. We were flying back. We were going by plane and had a rental car. But then our plane was delayed, and Kai was actually carrying all of my yarn in his hand baggage, I guess. Not in his checked baggage, that's what I'm trying to say. So our plane was actually delayed. And I am not one to knit on the plane. I don't bring needles to the airport because I know it probably will be fine, but I just don't need the stress. But at that point, I was getting quite bored because we were sitting around the airport for ages, and I had all this yarn just with me, and I couldn't knit with it, so that was kind of tough. But I survived, and like I said, I shouldn't be knitting anyway, so not too bad. So that's it for my acquisitions, just to end that segment properly. So now I'm just going to be rambling about our holiday and stuff anyway, so if you're not interested in that, thank you so much for watching, and if you do want to listen to what's been happening, stay tuned. So, for those of you who haven't been watching before, we went to France for a week, and it was the best holiday. It was so lovely. When I was a child, my parents actually took me to France quite a lot, but I was quite young and don't really remember too much about it. And this was the first time I came back together with Kai, with my boyfriend, and we really discovered our love for France. It was just as good as everyone says it is. I did speak French in school, so it actually came back to me quite quickly and a lot better than I thought my French was. So that was really helpful because not a whole lot of people there speak English or want to speak English to you. So that was actually really fun to rediscover the language and to figure out that I was not as bad as I thought I was. So I had to take another break. This is the episode of breaks, but oh well. A holiday. I was talking about a holiday. We flew down from Munich to Nice, which is only about an hour 10 or something to fly down, which was really handy. And then we had a rental car for all the time we were there. It was actually really fun. We got a Fiat 500, which is the car that I drive at home, and I love that car. I actually got to pick the color, which made me very happy. I picked a red one. And we had about the crappiest car rental company there was, so that was actually really sort of an adventure to get our car. And when we finally did, we drove it out of we had to drive out of a big parking garage, and only when we were in the front of the queue trying to get out, we realized that we didn't have the little ticket to get out of the car park, and people go honking behind us. It was like 11 o'clock at night, it was dark, and we didn't know what to do, and in the end, I actually had to get out of the car and run back up parking ramp back to the rental place, and everyone was watching, and it was not very fun. But anyways, we did get out of the parking garage and then had to find a place where we were staying, which was also quite interesting because we had no real idea what we were doing. We were very spontaneous. We had a lot of fun, but we didn't find it. And these were all like hill roads and one-way streets. Apparently France is just made up of one-way streets and roundabouts, and they drive like crazy. But eventually, with going backwards down the one-way street, we did find where we were going and arrived at like 11 o'clock at night. So that was quite late, but also very fun. So then on the next day, on Sunday morning, it was so fun to wake up and open the blinds and see where we actually were. And it turned out that the place that we were staying at was incredibly beautiful. It was in the hillside, and it was quite a big, we rented a little apartment. So we had this terrace, and we could overlook all these beautiful mountains and houses all the way to the sea. And it was a beautiful place. We were so lucky, and the guy who was renting it to us was very friendly as well. He actually spoke English, which was helpful. And it was about a 5 to 10 minute walk into the center of the city, up a hill, which was a bit of a burden. sometimes, but it was just amazing. I keep repeating myself because it was just so beautiful. Um, we did a lot of driving just on the hillside because there's so many medieval towns in the hills, and oh my gosh, they were just amazing. It was just so amazing. At the same time, there weren't that many tourists, and all the tourists that were there were French, and they were sort of very behaved and quiet, and yeah, it was great. It was fantastic. We did go down to, of course, the seaside as well a couple of times, which was a lot busier and a lot more traffic. But we visited Antibes, which was beautiful, and we went into Nice, which was an adventure in terms of parking and driving, but also amazing to see. I was very happy that we did manage to go there. We really wanted to drive over to Italy, which was very close, but it turned out that with our rental car, we would have had to pay extra to be able to go into Italy or Monaco. So in the end, with the traffic and everything, we didn't go, and we also didn't really have the time. But yeah, we just did a lot of looking around and wandering around French towns. And one time we drove over like in the hilly regions called Col de Vence, and into a village, and there was just no one there. It was amazing. There were no tourists, and it was actually really fun in that place. It was sort of like a small village in the hills, and there was one restaurant where everyone was sitting. All the French people were eating, and it looked really good. So after wandering around, we sat down there as well. And we were really excited and really hungry. It was about lunchtime. And then when we finally saw the waitress, she said that the kitchen was closed. And we were so sad. And then she said, oh, well, maybe we can make a small salad. And we're like, yeah, sure, that's fine. We'll just have 2 salads. And we expected a small plate of green salad. And what came was 2 huge plates of tomato, mozzarella, and French ham, and sort of like sandwiches baked with cheese on top. And it was this huge thing in a basket of bread, and it was just incredible. It was just so good. But generally, the food was just incredible. Like, I didn't really think it was going to be that good, but it was amazing. And when I say food, I mean everything from supermarket food, where a lot of time we just went to the supermarché and we bought, baguette and some sausage and some cheese and red wine, and everything just tasted so much better. It was, I don't know how the French do it, but just the bread alone and the cheese, it was incredible. And we also, of course, went out for some lovely meals. And again, everything we got was just such great quality and such amazing foods. They had a lot of restaurants, they had deals where you had like 3-course menus, which were not overly expensive actually. And we had some amazing, amazing, amazing food. I think we were eating the entire time. And oh my gosh, I miss it so much. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't expect the food to be that good. I mean, I know French food, and I have family who lives quite close to the French border, so and I'm definitely a foodie sort of person, but I didn't expect it to be that amazing. So I think both of us, we gained quite a bit of weight, but we just didn't care because it was 1 week, and we actually on our last day went to the supermarché, and we took home like half a kilo of salami and all the different kinds of food that we can't get here, and we're trying to slowly get through them. So yeah, I'm very excited, and I really want to go back, even though I think if we live there permanently, I would just be fat. Yeah, so the weather was also really good. It was always really hot, but then in the nights it also cooled down, so it was actually very pleasant. The entire holiday was just super pleasant. I'm just repeating myself, and I'm not trying to show off or anything. I just didn't expect this to be such a beautiful holiday. I think both of us kind of said that it was one of our best holidays that we've had, and that is in comparison to the trips that we took to Thailand and Malaysia and Vietnam, which were quite different and also quite a lot more exotic. But we really just enjoyed ourselves, and it was so needed to get away, and yeah, it was great. In terms of knitting, I got quite a bit of knitting done, but not as much as I would have liked. But I knew that in advance, so that was fine. We are actually really lucky in the way that we went back to work, which was super hard, especially coming back to 12-degree weather, and it's been pretty stressful. But we are lucky because in about 3 weeks there's another long weekend. So we both took a day off as well. So we're going to have another 4-day small holiday, which we're going to be spending in the south of Germany in 3 weeks. So that made coming back a lot easier, and that is going to be an education for me for sure. But yeah, so that was France. We got back on Sunday. Well, by the time we were home, it was pretty much Sunday night with flight delays and getting home. And then actually in Munich, I thought we could take a certain bus, which we couldn't, and it turned into a bit of a hassle. So we got back on Sunday night, and then of course on Monday started work again. And I already started my first day back at work, working a lot later than I thought I would have. So it's been pretty stressful ever since. But yeah, while I miss France, it was just a perfect getaway, and yeah, I'm hoping that it did help our relaxation, and now I'll be more able to perform at work as well. So now I've been back for 3 days, and it's been raining for 3 days, but I'm basically settled back in. On my first day back, I was so tired, and I was trying to blame it on jet lag, but obviously there can't be any jet lag because there's no changing time zones, so that was just me being crazy. But all that to say, we had a great time, and I'm very happy now to be back at home. I was actually really looking forward to coming home and reuniting with my stash and doing some knitting and cozying up in my apartment as well. But now the fact that I can't really knit, or shouldn't really knit if I want my hand to get better, is really starting to get to me. I'm not saying that for you guys to feel sorry for me. I'm just really noticing how much I miss knitting. Like, usually when I get up in the mornings before in work, I do a little bit of knitting. And same, of course, at night. And I've really noticed how much I miss doing that, or how something is missing when I don't have the opportunity to knit every day. So I've been trying to crochet, and I've been doing some spinning, but I really, really, really miss my knitting, and just not doing it for a couple of days just makes you realize how much of a part of my life it is. At least that's what it is for me. So that's quite an interesting experience, and so now I'm just planning out all the things that I want to knit, and today has actually been quite good in terms of pain, so I might try very carefully today, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm planning to get back into knitting by the latest on the weekend, which is also why I decided to record a podcast now, because I can't knit anyways, and that way I'll have more time to knit whenever I can knit again. How crazy is that? So yeah, that's been what's going on, really. I will include some photos probably at the end of this episode, and I did spam a lot of photos on Instagram because it was just that amazing, and France is a great place to take photos as well. So I'll try to include some photos. If not, just check out my Instagram. There's plenty of photos there. Thank you to everyone who sent us nice messages and sent me well wishes on my hand, and I really appreciate that, of course. So I think I'm going to end this episode for now. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to hearing from you, maybe in the Ravelry group, maybe in the knit-alongs, maybe in the YouTube comments, and I will probably be back the weekend after next, which will be in 10 days, but we're going to see how it goes, and I'll definitely try to record again on a somewhat regular basis. So until I see you again, have a wonderful week, happy knitting, and I'll see you soon. Bye!